friend, welcome back to Toyota Maintenance YouTube channel. In this video I would like to discuss few tips and tricks for the owners of these older Toyota's trucks equipped with 22RE engine. This customer yesterday came for the alternator replacement, which was diagnosed by different shop, but somehow she didn't like the quote they gave her, so she called around, ended up with me, and she was waiting for it. She was walking in our nice area here, so I couldn't film it for you. But there was another problem. When she brought it and I was driving it around the building to my garage, I immediately saw that the idle is bad and the engine wasn't running well. It was kind of huffing and puffing, and it was just not that legendary 22RE. I also felt it on the test drive. There wasn't any check engine light, surprisingly, but it felt like a misfire. I saw the spark plug wires were recent. They look pretty new. I believe they were only 6 months old. So I really briefly looked on all the vacuum lines on top of engine, but I didn't see anything obvious. So I decided to go and check really quickly for her. After I replaced the alternator, check the spark plugs. On what conditions are the spark plugs? They're easy to get to, so I was like, yeah, I want to do something extra for her. Let's go really quickly check those. So to get to the spark plugs, you first need to remove the spark plug wires, right? Spark plug cables or whatever you want to call it. This one was in the distributor. It's the shortest one, the number one, and look at that. Problem. Immediately we discovered where was the problem. This end was completely broken. It was not, that wire which is inside was not correctly touching that steel bracket which sits on top of the spark plug with this area, and it's all hidden in this boot. I had that customer waiting around, and I was also showing her those details. She loves her 92 tacos, so there was absolutely, at that moment, there was no way to film. But I saved those parts for the future testing and so on, and I can actually show you everything nicely here. So we have a spark plug in the engine, and you have this wire attached on it. But normally you don't see it because this is covered with this boot. And I can tell you two problems which happened there, and they caused this damage. And the engine, the legendary 22RE, wasn't running correctly. Also, make a little note, the spark plugs regarding to the owner's manuals, these are not correct. Regarding to the owner's manual, it's supposed to be BPR 5EY, and there were 5ES. So we didn't know how old they are, so we replaced the spark plugs too with the correct one. These older models of spark plugs, number one, you need a larger socket here. This is the old style. Number two, they're extremely cheap, so this is not a problem financially. It's less than $20 to replace all 4 spark plugs. Now I would like to show you another detail which is part of this problem. Look at this corrosion on the tip of the spark plug. So this is the problem number one, or number two. Number one, incorrect spark plugs. Number two, lack of dielectric grease. This dielectric grease is for a reason of keeping moisture out of these contacts but also moisture automatically creates the rust. So you see that blackened area, and this is what happened. This tip, now again we see it without a boot, it basically glued itself or rusted itself to the top. And then somebody came when the boot was on it, like this, and somebody, unfortunately, and I guarantee you, pulled only on this spark plug wire instead of using special tool to remove it, which I will show you very soon. So when she had her belts replaced and they said, oh, you need an alternator, I'm assuming, because she said it started, the problem of that misfire started immediately after she left, I'm assuming they were going to check the spark plugs for her. Somebody just grabbed this wire and broke it inside. It broke right here. It was still connected, but the connection was not perfect, and the engine was occasionally misfiring and not running correctly. That could have been prevented. Number one, if the dielectric grease was correctly applied on that tip, there will be not that burn mark, that rust. That will not happen. That will prevent that. Also, number two, let me put this completely together. That's the other way. Let's put a boot. You cannot be pulling on that wire. You will probably break it even if it's not rusted. I will show you. You should definitely, if you're on that truck, you should invest in the very inexpensive tool. So maybe I should demonstrate how you use this tool properly. So let's say this is the spark plug in the engine still. It was connected this way, and the boot is covering it. Normally you don't see those contacts. The boot is there all the way. Now it's clipped correctly. Yeah. So engine right here, spark plug. So you take those pliers, you grab this area. Again, this is in the engine, and you will be twisting it off. And it needs nicely, easily pull off. When you're putting it back, it always should do that audible click. Did you hear that? Hopefully. Yeah. So I have it all the way in. Look at that. And this is the way to pull it off without damaging the connector and ripping that wire open. Hopefully this is helpful. Bottom line, if you deal with the spark plugs on these older engines, make sure you use this dielectric grease, and when you pull the wire or cable off that entire boot, grab it nicely with this special tool. And the owner, she was present when I finally put everything together and I was going to start it up. So it was that moment of waiting. Was that the problem? Will this fix that bad idle, bad running? So we start her up, and the 22RE was purring like a kitten, running like a Swiss watch, despite the fact that that 92 truck, Toyota truck with this engine, already has 279,000 miles on the odometer. I took it for a drive around the building. Absolutely awesome. Toyota quality, isn't it? I couldn't film this on the car, but I still think it's worth it because it makes you even bigger Toyota expert than before. So thank you for watching and have a wonderful weekend, my friend.